Good evening, everybody. My name's Sandy Beach, and I'm an alcoholic. How you all doing? Good to see everybody here tonight. The hurricane really kept us away. It wouldn't have kept us away from the bars, so I don't know why it would keep us away from this. I'm happy to be back here again. We're getting near the end of this journey. Maybe some people here for the first time at this particular type of meeting, and what we want you to do is to have fun. Just sit back and enjoy it, and be grateful that we have found this place called Alcoholics Anonymous, that we have each other, and that we have this path that we can follow called our 12 Steps that is just absolutely amazing. If you want to get coffee, go to the bathroom during the meeting and go back and get whatever. Feel free to move around. There's no problem with that. We'll wrap it up at exactly 1:15, and like Diana said, if we can, it's real hard to leave that fast when you have to say something to everyone here before you go home, but if we could speed it up a little bit and clear out of the area and go rendezvous off at a coffee shop or something, it would really help out the neighborhood relations. The other thing is, we're on the 10th step tonight, and so we have the weekly quiz. What does the 10th step have to do with? God. Okay, we got that out of the way. All of the steps have, that's the whole point of the whole AA program, has to do with getting in contact with a higher power. And so I make this point every step. I go, well, what's this step have to do with? Like it's going to be different than last week. And that's the point. We've been talking about the transition from an intellectual way of living into a spiritual way, and we kind of review that every week so that we are all on the same frequency. And there's a wonderful example in the big book when it talks about the 10th step that I'll read here in a second. We're used to problem solving as human beings, and we use our mind and our intellect, and that's how we've been trained, and that's how everything that we see around us tells us this is how you get through life. So we learned that as little kids, and we just kept going, and then we came up against alcohol, and we tried to apply the same thing. Well, boy, this is a problem in my life. I'm going to have to control it. I'm going to have to do something about it. And we found that we couldn't do anything. The harder we tried, the more we went under. I mean, it just overpowered us. And we come in here, and we're told that there's another plan for living that has been kept secret from us. When we were in grammar school, they said, is that kid's going to be an alcoholic, so we're not going to tell him the secret plan for living. We're going to let him fall on his butt. And this is what we have when we come into AA, is a spiritual way of looking at our lives and the situations that are confronting us, and it's entirely different than the intellectual way. And in this 10th step, I was reading this earlier, and it made me think about this. We have ceased fighting anything or anyone. This is our new plan for conquering the world. We have ceased fighting anyone or anything, even alcohol. For by this time sanity will have returned. We will seldom be interested in liquor. If tempted, we recoil from it as from a hot flame. We react sanely and normally, and we will find that this has happened automatically. We will see that our new attitude towards liquor has been given us without any thought or effort on our part. It just comes. That's the miracle of it. We're not fighting it, neither are we avoiding temptation. We feel as though we had been placed in a position of neutrality, safe and protected. We have not even sworn off. Instead, the problem has been removed. It does not exist for us. That is our experience. That is how we react so long as we keep in fit spiritual condition. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight, is the daily plan for doing that. But instead, the problem has been removed. It does not exist for us. Now you can see that's an entirely different sentence than the problem has been solved. You know what I mean? Where you can see the answer to it. Here, the problem's been removed, so it's not up here in our head for us trying to figure out. It just isn't there anymore. And that is the miracle of our spiritual plan for living that we find here in AA. And it all begins with our disastrous encounter with alcohol. Most people that are motivated towards a spiritual path, the vast majority of them, all of us included, it comes about as a result of some kind of a disaster in our lives. And for the alcoholic, it's a pretty long path until we finally get down to some sort of a bottom where we're willing to surrender our own judgment and our own will about things and put up our hand with a white flag in it and just go, help, help, help. And that is what our first step is all about. And all spiritual programs require this. If you're going to get inside of them, we have to surrender. In other words, you can't live a new way and keep the old way going. You know what I mean? So, and I remember a lot of people come in, and it's like the AA is a lifeboat that came to get them off the island, and they've been on the island all their life. They're very familiar with how all that works, and they got one foot in the AA boat, one foot on the island, and they haven't made a full decision to jump in the AA boat, but their legs are getting spread pretty far. And if they don't make a decision soon, they're going to fall in the water. And that's what we have to do, is to come to realize we got to throw all of our lives into this deal and stop making judgments about it. And that all happens when we surrender. And so the great thing we have on our side is alcohol. That's our biggest friend in sobriety. Because it's waiting out there for you to change your mind. Well, I don't think I'm going to try this whole program. I think I'll just go do it myself. And then you're going to end up taking another drink. And then alcohol is going to be the motivator. You don't find anybody in AA putting your arm behind your back going, you have to do this, you have to do that. We just let alcohol do that for us. Because we know that alcoholics can't get away with anything. You can't just, well, I'm going to take off out of here. So alcohol will get a hold of us and go, I understand you're not willing to try the spiritual. That's right, I'm not. Well, boom, boom. One more detox, one more convulsion, one more DWI. Hey, you want to try the spiritual? No, I'm not going to try it. All right, boom. A couple more fifths go down, and now we're getting spiritual, only we don't know it. We are taking actions that are going to cause us to have a huge transformation, and it looks like we're just getting drunk. So a lot of the people that watch us don't realize that we are simply seeking a spiritual solution, and this is how it's done. I never got anybody in my life to buy that story, but I was trying. So you can see what happens. Ironically, this weakness that we have, this disease of alcoholism, is the greatest gift that we have. It brings us to a place we never dreamed existed. It is the greatest asset that we have for helping the next alcoholic. So our entire past becomes useful, and it just becomes ironic as we look at the whole big spiritual picture. My God, all those horrible years, they were designed to crack my ego enough so that I could be given this huge gift that is going to be the most precious thing throughout the rest of my life. It's going to be more important than my job and my yacht and my relationship and all those things. This is going to be the core of my life, and it's wonderful because I never would have found it had I not been an alcoholic. That's how I feel. I would never have run across this. I try to imagine, well, where would I be if I never had a drink? And the only thing I could come up with was, well, when I started drinking, I was a skinny, nervous teenager that didn't know what was going on. And I could only assume that I would now be a skinny, nervous old guy who didn't know what was going on. But I hadn't encountered enough trouble to cause me to go look for an answer. So in a way, we have a blessing that we had this disease that drove us down on our knees, where we finally admitted we're powerless over alcohol. And this enabled us to finally see what our problem was. It was too much for us. We're powerless. There's no way we can win the battle. We have to get help. And the help is spiritual help. So as soon as we say we're powerless, that means we're going to need to find a higher power. And most of us didn't believe in a higher power, so we have to change our mind. I was thinking on the way over here that even if I didn't want to believe in God or didn't want to believe in a higher power, I could call my higher power nothing. Well, I'm going to turn my life over to nothing. That's how I feel about it. And I'm going to rely on nothing to help me. And it would still work, because we're going to take a series of spiritual steps, and all it is saying is we're going to rely on something other than ourselves. And if you follow this path, this other thing than yourself will be in contact with you. And as we read the promises last week, you will suddenly find that you're not afraid of the past, you're not afraid of the future, you will intuitively know how to handle situations, and you could continue to attribute it to nothing. You'd say, well, I'm totally free and I owe it all to nothing. And that would be just as good as saying, and I owe it all to God. You see what I say? We don't want to get hung up on words. This process is a very personal one. As you go through the steps, you give up your judgment on what the plan for living should be, but what you retain is you get to grade how well the new plan is working. That's your job, is to just follow the instructions of your sponsor and the people in the program, and then report back how it's going every 3 months or so. And the amazing thing is you're going to find it keeps going better. And you're going to, this is working. What's working? Well, I'm praying to nothing, and it's having significant effects on my life. I might turn my entire life over to nothing. And you can see that, in other words, the actions are the secret to this. We don't need a concept of what this higher power is. It just has to be something beyond ourselves. And I remember very carefully in the early years, I bet it was 4 years, whenever you asked me, what is your spiritual program? I said, I have a loving higher power. It was 3 long words. Because I was never going to say God, because that would mean like, oh, you mean the one from the church, like when I was little? No, it's not that. I wanted to make it clear. It's a loving higher power. And somewhere around 5 years, I think I said this earlier, I was on an efficiency kick, and I just shortened it to God. Because you could say it so much faster. And by then, who the hell cared what people thought about whether I meant this or that, or he's hanging from a cross or up over here or whatever it was. And so it just was, what is this higher power? It's what I got in contact with when I followed these instructions. I suddenly was aware that I was seeing things different, that I was no longer afraid of a lot of things, and that problems were being removed. I forgot to worry about drinking for a month. Can you imagine an alcoholic forgetting to worry about drinking for a month? That is a spiritual change. So those are the things that happen early on in our steps. So we have to change our mind about our old ideas about a higher power. And then we realize if we're going to really win this battle and make a huge transformation, we're going to make this new higher power the centerpiece of our life. It is an energy source within us that if we get in contact with it, we can be guided through life and make spiritual decisions at the intuitive level instead of the intellectual level. And so that's when we make this decision to turn our will and our life over to the care of God as we understand Him. Then we run into the problem that, well, how do you do this? Well, it turns out that we are blocked from this energy source through our character defects, our instinctual drives. That's the deal. It's right inside of us. We have this wonderful, loving center that is perfectly able and willing to send us all this energy and different perspective and these signals about life and to just give us this new outlook, much like the third drink did. You remember that? You walked in and everything was sucked and it was rotten and I can't stand life, and then you went 1, 2, 3, yeah. What the hell was that? Everything is suddenly all right. You're the same jerk that walked in there. But now you're clicking your fingers and you're just going, what happened? A power greater than yourself, deep down inside, transformed the way everything looked. And now you liked it. So as long as you had that power source activating you and you weren't just alone anymore, it was fine. Well, this is the same situation. Only it takes longer. That's the only problem with this. It's not instantaneous. So we have to trust the other people when they tell us that this will happen. It will happen to you if you are willing to try it. So we realize that these defects are blocking us from experiencing what everybody else is talking about. So then we can go after them. We don't have to feel guilty that we got these character defects. They were God-given. These are instinctual drives. They're just out of control, and they're running our whole lives. Pride and greed and envy and sex and security and wanting a place in society. These things are just totally controlling us, and our only way we saw it intellectually was, if I'm going to have any peace of mind, I have to go out and achieve all the things that will satisfy these desires. Then, and only then, will I be happy. So I have to get enough sex to get this sex drive to quiet down a little bit. So we're obsessed with that. Then we have to get enough money to get this financial security thing taken care of. And when we get the amount of money we thought would take care of it, we find that inflation has taken over or something. And 50 grand doesn't give you financial security. It must be 100 grand. It must be 200 grand. I mean, whatever you get, it's not enough. And the same thing with security. We want to have emotional security, and we want a place in society so that we feel we are equal with all the other people. And whenever we get there, well, I remember when I got promoted to captain in the Marine Corps. My uncle had been a captain in the Air Force, and I said, man, that's like God. And as soon as I got promoted to captain, I said, you know, they don't make captains like they used to. My uncle was really something, and I'm nothing. So it wasn't there. So I was trying to fix these problems intellectually with material things, and it wasn't working. And I'm sure for you, it wasn't working either. That's why we kept going back to drinking. It was the only fix that we had that made us feel complete, where we could be creative, we felt equal to other people. So it took a power greater than ourselves to achieve this. So we sort of already had a glimpse of what this is like. Then we found that if we're going to have these blockages removed, we're going to have to share them with another human being in our fifth step, with ourselves, God, and another human being. And this is a huge issue of trust. It makes us understand that we can be forgiven and that we can forgive other people the first time. It really gives us a whole new sense of ourselves, that we are really, indeed, a friend of ours. We have to end up being our best friend as we go through this. And somebody's best friend will take care of them. Somebody's worst enemy will let them down time after time. And that's how I felt about myself. And if you're new, I'm sure you feel that way about yourself. All you do is let yourself down time after time after time. And here's the fifth step, where you're going to go out, do something that's terrifying in order to take care of you. So when you go do this fifth step, suddenly that part of you that wants to trust you can. It just sits there and go, my God, she was willing to go through this whole thing so that we can move along, and we have a whole new relationship with ourself that starts in that fifth step. Then we get to 6 and 7, and we find out that we're going to have to go a lot further than just stopping drinking. That we're going to have to shoot for as much perfection as we can find for the rest of our lives. That we're entirely ready to have God remove these defects of character so that the channel between us and our higher power can be as wide as possible. So this energy can flow through us and then out to the world. It doesn't come from out there into us. It flows out from us when this channel's open. And we can go out and be useful to the people around us. And that's what makes us truly happy. We had everything calculated wrong. We thought that stuff had to come this way for us to be happy, and it never worked. And it turned out the joke was on us. It has to go out from us, and then we're happy. And people that are on 12-step calls, or you're sponsoring somebody, and you just suddenly realize, man, I don't have a problem in the world while I'm working with somebody else. It's a very dynamic reversal of energy that comes about when we see this in step 6 and 7. And we find out that the spiritual answer to these instinctual drives that are driving us crazy doesn't have to do with supplying us with anything. It has to do with reducing the demands. All of a sudden, the sex demand is not an obsession. It is back to about a normal level where we can have a healthy relationship with another human being. And our greed level comes down to a point where we're not out trying to rob everybody and cheat them out of something just to take care of ourselves. And all of these demands get brought down to where they're manageable, and we can use the energy that comes out of these instinctual drives to move along as a human being and to follow the guidance that we think we're getting from our higher power in this spiritual program. So this is an epic part of our 12 steps when we go through 6 and 7, because it's conceptually opening up the door towards perfection. And we're never going to get there, but it's suggesting to us that we should, for the rest of our lives, look for something else that's wrong with us that we can get rid of. That's how we can streamline ourselves. Anybody that has boats or planes or whatever, you go, if I trim this off, this sucker could do 2 more knots. You know what I mean? And so that's the way it is with us as spiritual human beings. The more character defects that we can strip off, the more wrong ideas, the more mannerisms that put us in disharmony and harm other people. The more we can get rid of those things, the more we go, we just go through life like a arrow instead of like a great big shield, that just, and it takes 20 people to push it. It makes so much resistance. Well, that's what the ego wants. The ego wants to be big, you know what I mean? And the ego just gets out like that, and everything bothers the ego. Nothing's going right, Why'd that storm have to come today? I was going to go over there, and this is wrong. I want to sit in the front, and I'm in the back. I want to sit down. The temperature's too low. And look at Bayshore. I was going to walk down there. Goddamn storm. It's just, and that's all it does. And it's just looking around. I remember telling you one night here that I remember one day that I was on the Science Channel and they had found a new moon around Uranus. I'm going, well, they keep looking. I can't even remember the goddamn moons they got now. All people are doing in the world is bugging me. They're just, so my ego was out to Uranus. And it was going, another goddamn moon. Boy. We might bring it down like, it's down like the little tiny head of the pin or something, and that's all. There's nothing can hit it. It's just, we're going through the day, nobody can hit it. There's no target to hit. We're just, me, I'm nothing. The higher power, that's all the power. That's so huge. Me, I'm just nothing. I'm just like a servant. That's all I am. Nothing. Well, who can lay a hand on that? It's hard to disagree with it, No, I'm just here to be of service. Whereas before, it was like, let me tell you what my way is, and I'd like you all to pay attention. And then that started all the conflict. Well, I don't want to go to... And that was where we, found that people resisted us greatly. And as we found out in steps 8, we bring out the worst in people. That's our specialty. Keep them off balance. They won't be checking into our drinking. Well, if you bring out the worst in people, as we said a couple of weeks ago, you live in a world where people are always at their worst. That's what you are subjected to. You never see people happy, relaxed, because they can't be happy and relaxed around you. You know what I mean? Alcoholics are just disarming. Where'd he go? What's he doing? Jesus Christ. Went in the medicine cabinet, all the drugs are gone. Now he's in the bathroom. He stole the damn toilet paper, and he's out in the car. I'm a six-pack's gone out of the thing. He took my car. He didn't even take his car. My car was out of gas. What do you want me to do? We just left people on the floor as we roared through life, and then we complained about how terrible people were. So we come in here and we find, no, let's stop working on the world. Stop working. Don't change the world. Don't change anybody out there. Just change yourself. And then the world will change. Oh, I don't think so. I don't think so. That doesn't make any sense at all. I'm going to change me and they're all going to change. I don't believe that. See, these spiritual things just don't look like they're going to work. But how many people have come in here and they got about 3 months sobriety and they go, it's a funny coincidence, but my family seems to be getting better. They're treating me better. They're nicer. They're this and that. And that's what we're talking about. So it isn't just our family. It's the people in the checkout line. It's people driving with us out on the highways. It's our bosses, our neighbors, everybody. And so we learned this in step 8. We start taking a look at ourselves. How do I upset people as I go through the day? And boy, when you really get honest about that, it is overpowering. Holy Jesus. I'm really rude to everybody. Well, 'cause that was my philosophy. If I'm feeling crappy, everybody ought to feel crappy. That was just... So if I'm full of resentment or self-pity or whatever it is, I got to run around and inflict it on you. Just let you know, and I'm down. I had a terrible weekend. You come in whistling from your happy weekend. I just glare at you until you stop whistling. Then it's fair. You know what I mean? Now we're all miserable, and so this is, from a self-centered person, that's the only way they could see anything. And we talked about that earlier. Self-centeredness was the root of our problem. Self-centeredness. It had to be self-centeredness because we had to take care of ourselves. That's what alcoholics have to do. We come in here and they say self-centeredness. This is all you do is see the world from inside of you, And all you worry about is you, and all you think about is you. You know that old song, I'm not much, but I'm all I think about. And so, that's us. And so how do you get out of that? How do you stop being self-centered? And we find out the only way out of there is to become God-centered. It's the only way out. And then when we do that, we find out, hey, this is the real center. Now everything looks different. I'm not the center. This is the real center. And when I look at it as I'm just part of God's world, and there's this higher power, and He's in the center of everybody, and if everybody is making this higher power the center, we see tremendous harmony. So we see that happen in AA, and we see it happen in any spiritual movement. It has a tremendous impact on the society as a whole. If AA has 2 million members, there's 10 million people who are happier, whose lives have been enriched because of the spiritual path that the alcoholic is now following. So we talked about this, that we look at this, how do we harm people, and get honest and look at it, and then go out and set about making amends. Because until we do, it's very difficult to work the 10th step. Our 10th step that we're going to talk about shortly is how to live a day at a time. And until we settle with the past, it's very difficult to live in the now and drag the 90s with you. You know what I mean? Well, I'm right here now, and I hope I don't run into the guy who I stole his car in 1992, and I hope I never run into my uncle whose house I burned down, and I hope I never run into here. And we have the memories of all these things that have never been faced up to, and they aren't going to go away. They're there. They're part of us. But the 9th step enables us to go make amends, which is what the right thing to do is. This is for the benefit of me, the next person, and the whole world in general, is to go out, when I'm wrong, go out and make an amend. It then repairs the relationship, it puts things back in harmony, and it frees me up to be in the now. This is the only place to live, is in the now. But when the past hasn't been dealt with, we can't, because it's a ball and chain around our neck. So we set out about this task of going out and writing or calling or seeing people. We involve our sponsor in this, and we take our time. We look at this very carefully, and it becomes a wonderful challenge. And again, we get, the 5th and 9th step involve other people. And so there's a lot of promises that come out of both of those steps. And once again, we have a changed relationship about ourselves when we make these amends. We just go, I can't believe that I did this. I am a much better person than I thought. And we actually are starting to build our self-esteem as we go out and directly look for people that we are terrified of running into, and just go there and go to their office and make an appointment and come in. And as we suggested, don't go in there alone. We take our higher power with us. Say the serenity prayer in the ladies' room or the men's room before you go in. Walk up to the secretary. Would you tell Mr. Brown that we are here to see him? That's sort of the feeling that we have, and we go in with great dignity. This is not some little snaky thing coming in. We're coming in and we're just going. I'm here, looking the person right in the eye. I'm here to straighten out the past to the best of my ability. I'm an alcoholic. I was an employee of yours. I was awful. I know I was awful. And I'm in AA now, and I'm making amends. I'm trying to clear up all this wreckage, and you're way near the top of my list, and I just want to look you straight in the face and tell you I wish I had done a better job. I know there's nothing I can do about it now, but I just want to be on the record as telling you this. And the guy can go, oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Or he can go, you're still a bum. And we're out of there. Doesn't matter. It's done. And the rewards will come no matter what. And a lot of times the guy who says, well, you're a bum, I never want to see you again. You never know. About a year from now, he calls you up and he says, you still in AA? Yeah. Could you help my nephew? You know what I mean? You don't know. When we're just doing the right thing, which is God's will, as we can try to interpret it. And that may be why we were there. That the amend was being made in order that some help could be handed out 6 months from now. And all of a sudden you get this call and you're over helping his niece or his aunt or brother or whatever, or maybe even him. And all because we were willing to be totally honest and to go do things that we dreaded doing. So having said all that, we suddenly are into 10th step, continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. And this is the game plan for living in the now as far as AA is concerned. And I was trying to think, I got a couple analogies of what I thought my day was like before I got to AA, the alcoholic, whatever. And the one thing that has always stuck in my mind, I must have seen this long time ago in New York City. The guys on the street corners used to sell the wind-up dolls, the little guys, and they'd wind them up, and then they'd have their little feet going, and they'd just go, bam, and they'd hit the building, and then they'd go this way, boom, and they'd hit the side of his table, and then they go off in another direction, and then they go to the curb, boom, now he's lying there and their feet are going like that, and the guy has to pick them up, and that was the way I just felt as a person. Okay, it's time to go to work, it's time to go, bam, ooh, ow, okay, we got to go over here, boom, oh, sorry about that, oh, now I'm on my back, my feet are going, somebody picks me up, and finally the day's over, and I go, oh, man, that was awful. That was it, that was my day, that's the way I saw it. Then I came up with a better one. And this is my favorite. I was like one of the balls in a pinball machine. There's 5 balls sitting on a rack down underneath, like at a bar. You know what I mean? 5 bar stools, all right next to each other. And as long as we're in there, it's cool. Hey, man, what are you doing? Oh, and then somebody puts a quarter in. That's the alarm clock going off. Uh-oh. And now we're over there. We're the one. We're the one in the thing. We go, oh, Christ. This is my wife pushing me out the door to work. You know what I mean? Bam! And now I'm up here. Oh, Jesus. Here comes the plunger back. The day is about to start. Bam, 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 bam. What? And all I'm looking for is that little goddamn hole down at the bottom, My favorite bar. Oh, there it is. I'm just going in. A flipper comes out. Phew, I'm all the way to the top. I got the world champion pinball machine player. I'm out there forever. Bam, 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 over just in one set of bumpers over here, like 15 minutes. And then finally I come down in and I'm back on the rack and I'm going, oh, man, give me a double. You wouldn't believe. I can't tell you what it's like out there, And what happens? The next guy comes in, second ball. Oh, it's awful out there. Once a year, some jerk just pulls it back, doesn't know how to play pinball at all, and the ball goes up, barely makes it to the top. You remember shooting a ball like that? And it falls straight into the hole, doesn't score 1 point. When that would happen, I would go, now that's more like it. If I had a day like that where I just shot out and somehow it just came back and I went right back in the bar, and I would go, if every day was like that, I wouldn't be complaining. But you saw, I had little to do with my day. I had little to do with it. I was just out there bouncing off of things and causing, and I could hardly wait for the day to end so I could come into the bar and go, well, you're not going to believe what happened to me. I got in the 2 bumpers over here. I must have been there, blah, blah, blah. You remember that? And then the other guy, he had his story. So we come in here now, and here's this thing. It doesn't look like it would be a good plan at all. Continue to take personal inventory, and when we're wrong, promptly admitted it. Does that look like the secret to life? Doesn't look like it to me. Well, I just read a little bit out of the big book where it says, by now our problems are being removed. We feel protected. Something is transforming inside of us. And it has happened as the result of these first 9 steps, where we inventoried, and then when we had stuff in the past that we wanted to clear up, then we inventoried that, we talked about it, and then we made amends, that type of thing. Well, this is condensing it all into doing all this stuff all in one day. And it starts out with a very interesting proposition, which is the spiritual axiom in the 12 and 12. And if you're new and you don't learn anything, remember this. The sentence says, if something disturbs us, no matter what the cause, there's something wrong with us. And the next sentence, or the sentence after that, is, like Bill writes that and then he knows we're going to react to it, self-centered alcoholics. Whoa. That's a little extreme, Bill. If something disturbs me, no matter what the cause, there's something wrong with me. What about justifiable anger? Immediately comes up. I mean, it can't be that 100%. If something disturbs me, no matter. What about Hitler? What if Hitler walked in here tonight? I'm not supposed to be disturbed? Yeah, I'm trying to disprove this spiritual principle. And why? Because I don't want it to be this way. I want it to be somebody else's fault. I don't want it to always be me. But look at this and take a look at it with me. If something disturbs me, no matter what the cause, there's something wrong with me. What's wrong with me? I'm disturbed. That's what's wrong with me. And disturbed is the wrong thing to be if we're an alcoholic or if we're trying to work on a spiritual path. Disturbed means, by definition, that we have just cut off contact with our higher power. Disturbances close the channel. Meditation and spiritual practices open the channel. But a resentment or a fear or anger or any of these things that arise to cause us, when you get disturbed, you've started your day, you're doing okay, you got down there, because you're telling the story at the end of the night. Everything was going great until this other salesman came in and said, whatever the heck it was, and then, boom, obviously he said something that disturbed me. And I decided to go retaliate and get him to stop saying things that disturbed me. I didn't know that I could just get undisturbed and leave him the hell out of it. I never thought of that. And this is what is being said. Because if I have the power to do this, then I can win without him changing. That's the point of this whole thing. That I can become undisturbed if I'm willing to work this program without anybody else changing. And I just go, God, I think that's wonderful. But I don't think I should be the one that has to give in all the time. You know how the ego works? Why should I be the one? Why should I have to be the one to make the changes? And the answer is, because I'm the one who wants to be happy. I'm the one who wants to stay serene. I'm the one whose serenity was broken. I am now in this disturbed position where I'm thinking of having a drink, I'm thinking of revenge, I'm thinking of all these things. And when it happens during the day, your neck starts first, it chokes up a little bit, the temperature goes up, you feel that flush feeling on the head. What's going on? Nothing. Well, you look disturbed to me. I'm not disturbed. It has started. We are in this process. So what Bill is saying, okay, so here's where inventories come in. These are called, in our 12 and 12, the spot check inventories. It's real easy. Whenever we're disturbed, time out. Time out, time out, time out. Do not advance any further until we get undisturbed. And then there's a process for getting undisturbed. Why do we want to do that? So that we don't do stupid things. Because when we're disturbed, we do very stupid things sometimes. Boss comes in, he says, Joe, I read this memo, it's terrible. Well, screw you. I'm not going to work here anymore. Okay, you're fired. And you go, God damn, what the hell did I do that for? Yeah. I could have said, well, let's look at the memo. What changes would you like? And then I'd still have the job. But I was all upset. I know. So we shouldn't have said anything until we got unupset. So what we're saying is, and we start learning this 4-part process to this day-at-a-time program. And the first one is self-restraint. And self-restraint is something that we can pray for. This is a cushion that we would like to have, a spiritual cushion between us and the world around us. And you can generate it yourself. You could get up in the morning and say, I'm going to let people behave any damn way they want today. That would be a spiritual cushion. So somebody cut you off in traffic, you go, hey, big deal. This is your free day. You're free to do any damn thing you want today. I'm letting people just be today. Not tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm bringing a gun. But today... But today, and you see, we only live in today, so the gun will never get there. But today, I'm letting them. So we can pray for this. It's a legitimate thing to pray for. Give me 10 seconds of self-restraint. I want self-restraint, so that I can then proceed to take the remaining steps to become undisturbed. And then I can proceed. And a lot of people think, well, geez, if I go back to being undisturbed, then I'll never take care of myself. No. when we go back to be undisturbed, we can still sue somebody. We can still write a letter and demand our rights for this or that. But it will be our most conscious self that is taking this action, and not rage or fear or something else that's in charge of us that causes us to take some position that we're stuck with because our ego will never allow us to back off. So have you ever been stuck with real stupid decisions and you're just stuck with them? Why do you keep sticking with that position? Well, I thought it up and I'm stuck with it, I guess. Well, you could just back off and say, I made a mistake. Oh, shit, I don't do that. I stay with the stupid decisions. That's my style. You don't understand me. I don't do that. I don't do that I'm wrong crap at all. I just plow ahead and I jam it down their throats. I mean, I can't. I just don't go into this. So you can see that's stupid. That plan for living is really stupid. So what are we saying here? We're going to say, all right, my job is to stay undisturbed, and when I do, my interactions with people will be in harmony, and at the end of the day, I'm going to look back on the day and really have loved it. That's all we're saying. Just try it. All right, so how am I going to stay undisturbed? I'm going to pray for self-restraint. Now, you know when it says in the 10th step in the big book that we're not cured of alcoholism, what we have is a daily reprieve contingent on our spiritual condition. And our spiritual condition, in a way, really is this self-restraint. It is this cushion that enables us to have our human self get attacked, and then temperature goes up, and then we let the temperature come back down, and then we keep going with our day. That's what our spiritual cushion is for. And it reminds me, if you bought a Rolls Royce because you wanted to have the smoothest ride through life, do you know what gives you the most important ingredient in that car that gives you the smoothest ride? It's the free air in the tires. Because Rolls-Royce with air out of the tires gives you a lousy ride. Terrible ride. Worst ride you can imagine. And our self-restraint cushion is like air in the tires. And sometimes it'll spring a leak. And sometimes we haven't put any more air in there in a while. We haven't prayed for any self-restraint. We haven't gone to a meeting. We haven't talked to our sponsor. And that tire now that we're riding on, our spiritual tire, is getting down real low. And we look and we go, ooh, that tire is low. Unfortunately, I have a very busy day today. No time for meditation, no time for a meeting. Don't even have time to call my sponsor. But I will be checking on that tire tomorrow. You ever done that with a slow leaking tire? I'll just put a little air in and I'll get the thing fixed some other time. You keep putting the air in there for a couple of weeks and it takes more and more and more, and you know you ought to get it fixed because that sucker's going to strand you somewhere. And this is what a slip looks like in AA. We just don't go back and fill that tire at all. And then one day there's a pothole of the size we never saw before, and the rim cuts through the tire from the inside, and that's where a slip comes from. It's just, there's nothing left to protect us. There's no defense against the first drink, and choo! And there it is. And so this is a very important thing to pray for, this self-restraint in the 10th step. With the self-restraint, as things happen in our day, we can then move through the next three things. And the first one is an honest analysis of what happened. As soon as we can get calmed down, we can go, well, I came to work and she said to me the most rude thing, disgusting thing I've ever heard. So now the disturbance was her fault. Anybody would agree it's her fault. So our job is to forgive her. And the way we do that is go, well, maybe she had a terrible weekend. She is having problems with her husband. As a matter of fact, I think they're splitting up. I mean, man, she's probably just off her handle. Maybe I'll go get her a cup of coffee and just see if I could help her out and make her feel better. That's what we do there. We just forgive. Why? Why are we going to forgive somebody who probably did something wrong? So that we can be undisturbed. That's why. So that we can be undisturbed. That's the top goal. That's what serenity, sobriety, all of it is about. And as human beings, we're going to get upset all the time. And this is what's being suggested. Instead of blaming and trying to get them to straighten out, we work on ourselves. Because that's possible and the other one is impossible. That's the first one. If it turns out that it was our fault, that we came in and made some bad-ass remark and they just retaliated, then we can go back and take a look at this and we can just go out and make an amend immediately. When we're wrong, we promptly admit it. So we come back out and we go, Mary, could I start the whole morning over again? I'd like to apologize for my entrance. Could I get you a cup of coffee? Could I just start over? Boy, I was a jerk. And we've made an amend. Now we can proceed. So you can see that this is we have the self-restraint and honest analysis, and we either forgive or we admit that we were wrong. When this happens, the incident is over. It is over. This is spot check inventory, and we go through this. But we're never going to be perfect at that. So at the end of the day, it is suggested that we take an end of the day inventory. And the basic thing for the end of the day inventory is, and here we look, first time you see it in AA, where we look at both the good things and the bad. And we take a look and we go, how did I handle things better than I used to? Where were the chances where my self-restraint did pay off and I was able to work this thing? And take note of it, give yourself a little pat on the back and be grateful to your higher power and say, I'm making progress. Now, where are some examples, and all of us can find this. If I could go back and do the incident in the restaurant with the waiter, how could I have handled it better? That's all. And then we imagine, okay, he comes over, he dumps the coffee, goes on my brand new suit, and I rip his face off. Okay, that's what happened. Now, how could I have done this better? And then we come up with something like, we're angry, but then we calm down and we go, okay, yeah, you want to pay for the dry cleaning? That'll be fine. Let's cool it. I'll take care of it. It's an accident. We're down. And then we look at that and we go, yeah, that would have been a lot better. I would feel much better tonight if I had done that. So as we rehearse this in our head, then it starts to happen. This just starts to be how we react at things that we used to react in this awful fashion. And as we're doing this, we can be assured that our higher power is smiling. When you're willing to look at your day, trying to see how you might have treated his other children in a better fashion, this has got to be a wonderful feeling. This is really what sobriety and spirituality is all about. When a human being is taking time at the end of the day to see how he or she might have treated the other inhabitants of this planet in a little more humane fashion, this is big deal. This is like climbing the Mount Everest of sobriety. When that's it. You can't get higher than that, where you're taking time out of your selfish, self-centered mind. Well, what's in for me? What's going to happen tomorrow? Am I going to get this? And just go, will you shut up off of there for a while? Let's look back at the day. What could I have done different? And see these instances and then be ready to do those things the next day if we can. So you can see how powerful this is. I want to make sure I didn't leave anything. I have a note here. Pinball like yourself at the end of the day. There's no. I did them all. And we are at 13 minutes after. So let me just say one thing in wrapping this up. This is not a theory. This is real. This will absolutely guarantee to work. Spirituality is, if there's nothing else that it is, it's practical. It is intensely practical. When you put this into practice, you will get rewards the next day. You'll just see it in your life. It is the most wonderful plan for living, all contained in our little 10th step. And next week we'll be talking about how to really open the channel with the prayer of St. Francis through meditation and prayer, and that's always a fun thing to talk about. We're at the end of the hour. Let's stand in place and we'll say the Lord's Prayer and then get out of here.